Paris, capital of La Belle France, one of the greatest and loveliest cities in the world. The French like their cars fast, and their things slow. And 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. There are tourists that come to France for little more than just a single day. The 24 hours at Le Mans for the world's greatest road race, whose cathedral has oldest stained glass in France, but whose highways all funnel to its race course. All things change on this day, and city business stops. Out at the famous circuit, 250,000 people and 49 machines have come together for the race of the year. The first Grand Prix was held at Le Mans in 1906 and was won by a renowned French name, Renault. Here's the start. At 4 p.m., the flag goes down, and the drivers dash to their cars. Not until 4 o'clock the next afternoon will the winner be decided. Ferraris in the bright red colors of Italy are favored entries. 11 of them are in the race today. Under the Dunlop Bridge and around the abrupt flat turns, the cars whiz by. The winding circuit is 8 3/10 miles, yet the lap record, incredibly enough, is almost 130 miles an hour, but not when you make the wrong turn. The dangers on this roaring road come not only from the turns. The closeness of the cars and their speed differentials are additional hazards. Spectators, too, watch at their risk. In 1955, Le Mans saw the worst accident in racing history. 80 killed by a flying engine ripped from a car. Look out! The grandeur of the automobile of yesteryear. Hour after hour, while racing drivers fight for position on the track, there are other contests off the track. Girls will be girls. Evening comes, the danger of collision increases. Around the track, cafes take on a welcoming glow. As a matter of fact, you can take on quite a glow yourself from crepe Suzettes that are doused with brandy. Through the night, speeding drivers and flashing headlights scan the roaring road. One-way traffic to the finish line. At the first light of dawn, the race goes past the halfway mark. 12 more hours to go. These fans require rest, or maybe just too many crepe Suzettes. For 24 hours, Le Mans is classic, carnival, and campsite. Time for petit déjeuner. Mass is celebrated outside with prayers for those who drive. How different things look when you're an early bird. If you've slept too long, well, read all about it. the news is on the grim side. Of 49 starters, more than half are out of the race. Way out. A nighttime four-car collision has cost the life of one driver. Mechanics work desperately to repair a bashed front end to get another car back into the race. Drivers almost lose their breeches in their eagerness to move. Here in the pits, many a race is won or lost. Here, time is relative. To the mechanics, it's seconds. To the driver, it's forever. Hurry, 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 I have to catch a car. Anyone forget the ketchup? At this point, there's no return. Just go, man, go. Number 21, driven by two Italians, is way out in front as the marathon nears its end. There's the flag. 24 hours of racing is over. Lorenzo Bandini and Ludovico Scarpiati of Italy have won it, their little red Ferrari. And they've set two records for this race. They've traveled almost 3,000 miles at an average speed of 118 miles per hour. Strike up the band. Everybody wants to cheer the men of the hour. Then it's all over, but gone. 24 hours of drama, excitement, and action have fled like ghosts. The Route Nationale returns to the common people of Le Mans. Peace and quiet return to the roaring road.
Le Mans, France, about the 10th hour. At this point, everyone begins to understand what a 24-hour race is. For the drivers, the thrill of the start gives way to grim determination. The mechanics begin to realize the aching fatigue that will dog them for another 14 hours. The crowd is mesmerized by the 200-mile-an-hour fireflies. Le Mans is the supreme auto racing ordeal. To race here is to face the ultimate challenge. To win is to conquer the most rigorous test. And so Le Mans attracts only the daring and the bold. Drivers, manufacturers, even countries seeking a place in racing's history. For all of them, Le Mans is motor racing's Mount Everest. Le Mans is the grand prize. June 1973. More than 400,000 people jammed the 8.3-mile race circuit at Le Mans. They're here because people will always be where the greatest test themselves. And so it has been through the years. In 1923, the crowd was smaller, but the challenge is great. From the beginning, the concept was to retain the flavor of the original city-to-city endurance races. In the first 24-hour event, all the entrants were French, except for an English Bentley. Subsequent years attracted various European manufacturers, but it wasn't until 1928, when a Stutz finished second and a Chrysler third, that American manufacturers took a serious interest in the race. Difficult economic times and then the war snuffed out America's racing efforts for almost 2 decades. In 1950, Briggs Cunningham, a wealthy American sportsman, brought 2 Cadillacs to the famed French circuit to begin a legendary quest for international fame. Later, in Chrysler-powered cars of his own design, Cunningham managed a 3rd-place finish and for many years supported the only American team at the French Classic. Le Mans' mushrooming reputation as the supreme test of car and driver brought heightened interest in the event from leading manufacturers and drivers. Jaguar and Ferrari solidified their stature by dominating the event through the 50s and early 60s. Ferrari, in fact, won 7 times in 8 years, beginning in 1958. And that 1958 victory was co-driven by Phil Hill, the first American to win at Le Mans. Le Mans became the crown jewel of a series of international races leading to the World's Manufacturers' Championship. Victory here meant worldwide recognition. It was this goal that brought the Ford Motor Company to Le Mans in 1964 with 3 sleek coupes to challenge the might of Ferrari and test the rigors of Le Mans' 24 hours. They were not equal to the task as Ferrari rode home with the first 3 places. Undaunted, Ford came back again and again. Finally, in 1966, New Zealanders Bruce McLaren and Chris Amon gave an American manufacturer its first Le Mans victory. 1 year later, the revolutionary Chaparral joined the American invasion. Chevrolet powered with an automatic transmission and sprouting a huge wing, Jim Hall's Chaparral was another statement of American inventiveness and ingenuity. But it was Ford who gave America its greatest hour of glory. They led every lap of the race, and when it was done, Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt celebrated the first all-American victory, car and drivers. Throughout its 50 years, Le Mans has been under continuous development. Changes and improvements were numerous, but its character has never changed, nor has the challenge of Le Mans' brutal 24 hours of punishment. In 1973, a lone all-American team has entered the race, as much for personal commitment as patriotism. Headed by John Greenwood of Troy, Michigan, the team has been racing successfully in the United States. Its sponsor is the B.F. Goodrich Company. They are here at Le Mans to race on passenger automobile tires, to submit street tires to the stresses and demands of racing. These conditions are accelerated in an endurance race, and Le Mans, with its 200-mile-an-hour, 3-mile-long Mulsanne Straight and its tortuous turns, is particularly well-suited for Goodrich's bold venture. The tension, exhausting preparation, and high hopes that characterize this effort are typical of what each man, each team, each manufacturer, each country brings to Le Mans. Greenwood has brought over 2 immaculately prepared Corvettes, 1 as a backup, and drivers Bob Johnson, Ron Grable, Don Yenko, and Jim Greendyke to share the wheel. Crew chief Bob Johnson, a former Le Mans driver, has put together an expert crew to work the pits. The days before the race are spent sorting out the cars, learning the course, searching for that ideal mechanical human mixture that always seems so elusive.
In other words, you just plain pace the car at whatever is very comfortable and smooth, so that you don't tear the car up, you don't tear the tires up, and you don't completely get tired. But the only way you can do that is to hit the right line every single time right on. In other words, it's all concentration, just total concentration on what you're doing.
The tension, exhausting preparation, and high hopes that characterize this effort are typical of what each man, each team, each manufacturer, each country brings to Le Mans. Greenwood has brought over 2 immaculately prepared Corvettes, 1 as a backup, and drivers Bob Johnson, Ron Grable, Don Yenko, and Jim Greendyke to share the wheel.
Just total concentration on what you're doing. The tire itself has less rolling resistance because it's radial. And as far as your speed down the straightaway, you can run a higher speed down the straightaway with the Goodrich tires. As far as cornering, the cornering is quite good here. In other words, the only disadvantage we got with the tires is the width and the fact that they're a street compound and not a racing compound. That's all you're giving away is actual cornering ability.
B.F. Goodrich has assigned a crew of expert tire engineers to assist in the effort. Every car in the race will be running on special racing tires, except the Goodrich Corvette. The Corvette will be on street radial tires, the Radial TA. The Goodrich car will race in the Grand Touring category against production line Porsches and Ferraris, legendary names. Both are here in force, all on specially built racing tires. The purebred racers of France, Italy, and England are represented by super sleek Matras, Ferraris, and Mirages. These cars are capable of touring the 8.3-mile course at an average speed of 140 miles an hour, and undoubtedly will be the front runners. Race day. Le Mans is bathed in the warm June sun. Nearly 400,000 spectators settle down to enjoy this most important pageant of France, the 50th anniversary race, motor racing's grand prize. As the cars are pushed to the starting grid, Greenwood and Johnson relieve pre-race tensions by discussing pit stop procedures.
I don't know.
Well, as we come in, then you will, on the driver change, then when you get out, you will lengthen the seat belts for me because I'm going to have to put the seat liner in because I can't reach the pedals the way the seat is for you. Then I'll put the seat liner in, and I'll put my arm through the right-hand side, then you'll help me on with the left arm.
Before I put okay, I'm going to lengthen the shoulder harness before I get out, and I'm going to lengthen the seat.
Okay. I think the shoulder harness may be all right. The seat belt's the one that's going to be critical. How are we going to get it in? What? Our signals? I got it all. Okay. I'll be looking for you every lap.
Anybody that's
And Matras set the early pace. First one, then the other takes its turn at the front. Greenwood's running comfortably with his competition. The Goodrich Corvette is capable of speeds of over 200 miles an hour on the Mulsanne Straight. By the third hour, the Ferrari of Pace and Merzario has a lock on first. 3 French Matras follow. Bob Johnson's now at the wheel of the Goodrich Corvette. In the pits, the crew is waiting anxiously for him to pass. Word has come to the crew that Johnson is off the course, somewhere along the 3-mile stretch to Mulsanne. Johnson's okay and is making his way back to the pits. It will remain for him to give the unhappy details.
I was going down the back straight. You'd just given me the sign to come in for a pit stop. About halfway down, I had looked at my gauges. I was starting. Just before the kink, there's a dip in the road. And just as I went over the hump, the cockpit filled with smoke and the rear end locked up. The tires are all okay, so I know that it had to be the engine somewhere.
It didn't give you any warning at all before it let go?
I had looked at the gauges just as I started the Mulsanne straight. It happened just before I went through the kink.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's motor racing, they say.
That's motor racing.
Motor racing.
The bold effort of Greenwood and the B.F. Goodrich Company is suddenly ended. The tension, the exhausting hours of preparation, now surface in their disappointment. They have proven their street tire equal to the challenge of Le Mans. But because an engine failure robbed them of their chance to finish and perhaps win, the effort is less than completely satisfying. Darkness blankets the course, and with it comes the carnival atmosphere that is also Le Mans. But always the incessant wail of the cars knifing through the merriment. Day relieves night. The demands of the race become apparent. Fewer cars parade the course. Le Mans does that. It always has. Perhaps as it should be, Matra of France has endured. France has won her first Le Mans with an all-French team, car and drivers, in many years. In 1973, the 24 hours of Le Mans was no less exacting than when it started 50 years ago. And those who competed share the knowledge that they have tested themselves, and win or lose, are the better for it.
I doubt that even these wise men realized the rabid interest that would develop in the average person by the 1960s in international automobile competition. The competitions that take place throughout the world draw participants and fans from practically every country with everyone's eye on the Winners' Cup. Of all the Grand Prix races, probably the most unusual and in many respects the most complex is the great Grand Prix of Europe, the Tour de France. For this is no ordinary race, but one demanding not only speed, but exactness of time and precision not required by most other races. Now, this Ferrari and others like it, automobiles entered by all the leading manufacturers in the Grand Tourism and tourism events, each with their own drivers, gather in Nice for the Tour de France, a race and a rally covering 3 countries for a distance of over 3,625 miles. Every year from Nice, some 140 staunch sportsmen start on the most grueling endurance test ever devised for motor car races. In 9 days, they have to cover 3,500 miles, 16 circuit races, and hill climbs. They meet in Nice the day before the start. There, the cars are given a final check, the engine sealed, and cars and drivers numbered. Cars of all makes compete in different cylinder groups, the largest in Grand Tourism, Ferraris, Porsches, and other similar makes, and the smaller in tourism, Jaguars, Alfas, Fiats. As this map shows, the whole of France is covered by the contest. In addition, there's a brief trip through Belgium and a sea trip to Corsica, the participants returning to Nice within 9 days from starting time. It's time for the first lap of the longest automobile race in the world. Olivier Gendevien, Maurice Trintignant, and the Belgian Willy Moretz are a few of the well-known names taking part, and all are driving Ferraris. A number of women's teams comprise some of this year's 140 starters. Their destination is the famous race circuit at Clermont-Ferrand. Before reaching Clermont-Ferrand, these cars will cover some 100 miles of mountains on the way to the southern part of France. The city of Clermont-Ferrand will be the starting point for the first of the 5 circuit races. And here's the famous Le Mans running start. Once the flag is down, the contestants rush to their cars to take off for the 1-hour race. The circuit at Clermont-Ferrand is 6 miles long, and the race is divided into 2 heats. Here we're watching the Grand Tourism with 51 cars taking part. The Ferraris are soon in the lead. And here's the French champion, Trintignant, closely followed by Moretz. Competing in the same heat are the Porsches and the Pau Alpes and the Fiat Alphas. This race draws competitors from all over Europe. If we're to judge by precedent, not more than 1/3 of all the starters will return to Nice 9 days later at the conclusion of the race. A demanding test of endurance and skill. And now, while the race continues, we thought we might talk to world-famous racing driver Olivier Gendevien, one of this year's favorites. Deviens was clocking his partner's lap as we asked him a few questions.
Mr. Gendevien, as winner of Le Mans and of Sebring this year, how do you compare those races to the Tour de France?
I think the very good comparison is that they, all three of them, are very long, and Le Mans, Sebring, and the Tour de France are competition that you have to drive the same way.
You have a number of races in the Tour de France. Of these, which do you find the most difficult?
One of the most difficult is probably this circuit of Charade, Clermont-Ferrand in France, because it's very twisty, and the average is not a very high average, but the job of the driver is much more important than the job of the driver in a long straightaway.
I see. Tell me, which driver in this particular race do you find will be your biggest competition, since you won it 3 times, I believe?
I did it 3 times, that's right. 3 times in a row, 57, 58, 59. And I think for this competition, I'm sorry, the best driver for this competition will be the French champion, Maurice Trintignant, well known in the world. He's a very fast driver, very clever, and I think we'll have a lot of trouble to win against him.
Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you later during the week.
This one-hour competition is well along on its way at this point. The Ferraris are still far in the lead, including Moretz, who has just completed his fastest lap. Moretz is closely followed by Bianchi, Jean Devienne's teammate, number 145. We've received the report that the Porsches, led by Robert Bichet of France, number 127, are holding their own in their category. Perhaps the interesting thing about this race is that the moment it's concluded, all the competitors have to get back on the road and reach their next destination within a prescribed time. There is no time for relaxation in the Tour de France. Here comes Moretz, number 149 of Belgium, the winner of this first grueling race. The cars are back on the road 1 minute apart and on to their next race. This will be their first sleepless night of 7 that lie ahead. Each competitor must keep an average speed throughout the populated areas they pass through. There are many hidden as well as open control spots. Here is an important night checkpoint. Now it's time to register. And time for a quick chat as the drivers come in to register and have their papers checked and stamped. Very quickly, the engines are checked. There's just time for a bite to eat before they start off again. Tonight, they'll have to cover some 300 miles before they can stop for a 3-hour rest period. At early dawn, the competitors return to the guarded car park a few minutes before takeoff on the second lap. This is their only time to check their cars and any necessary details. As always, road maps must be checked and last-minute instructions followed. Soon the cars will be off again, but the start is delayed until the ceremony of the yellow ribbon takes place. The cherished yellow ribbon marks the winner of the previous day's competition. At this moment, Moretz assumes his lead in the 10th Tour de France, and along with the others, he's off toward their next race. Some of the most rugged features of this competition are long hill climbing races where each driver competes against the clock on closed mountain roads between a number of given points. Jean Devienne is close behind the French champion Trentagnan. The pressure increases as the mountain roads become steeper. Gears have to be shifted more rapidly and the brakes used more frequently. Here a near miss by the French Ferrari driven by Henri Arrière. This is a 9-mile race which has to be covered in the best possible speed. Here our cameras and helicopters follow some of the competitors, the same helicopters we've been using to photograph other parts of the race. Speed, braking, turning. Speed, braking, turning as the cars twist through the mountain roads. This is the town of Rouen, which boasts one of the fastest racing circuits in all of Europe. Our competitors will soon reach the circuit on the outskirts of the town. In the first heat, the tourist category competes. Here are the various Jaguar entries. Peter Jopp of Britain, number 86. Dermot Constant of France, number 85. They have to compete against BMWs, Alphas, and many other European sport cars. It's during this race the Grand Tourism competitors have a moment for some relaxation. Hot meals are served in the tour restaurants, large tents transported to each track. In tents adjacent to the track, there's an opportunity for some quick shut-eye. Perhaps the noise is not too conducive to sleep, but then after a few sleepless nights and almost 1,000 miles of driving, any opportunity for rest is welcome. tourism race is now over, and the English team of Jopp and Bailey are the winners. We located them right after their impressive victory.
Mr. Bailey, this is the first race you've won in this Tour de France. How many times have you done the Tour de France?
This is my fourth time.
What chance do you think you now have of catching up with the leader?
Well, I think that depends a great deal on how he goes. He's a good lead now. If something happens, we are there.
Well, I hope you can still keep your place. In any event, you're the only English team left, aren't you?
Yes, correct.
Good. I hope you continue to do as well as you have done up to now. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
The racers are at the start for the second circuit race in the Tour de France in as many days. The city of Rouen is the scene of the French Grand Prix. The Formula One cars and many of the racers you've been watching will certainly compete in that important event. Among them, Moretz, the leader at this point, with the yellow ribbon attached to his car. Moretz will be driving for the famous Ferrari stables. Trintignant, France's Popper, will also be in at the start, as will Olivier Gendavien. The circuit covers 5.5 miles and has many difficult and very dangerous turns. The straightaway itself is 1 mile long. It's at this point that the teammates of the racers time the performances. There's considerable prestige attached to this race, and every manufacturer tries to obtain an entry. There's no time for pit stops for refueling. Included in the many cars in the race are the French Veselia, driven by a woman team headed by Mademoiselle Soisbeau. There's an Italian Alfa Giulietta driven by the Frenchman Max Cross. Also a Porsche team headed by Bichet of France, and of course, the privately owned entries, the Ferraris. Moretz, intent on winning, has just completed the fastest lap. His teammate is anxiously signaling him to slow down, as victory is certain. Moretz is well ahead of his compatriot and strongest competitor, Gendavien. Once again, he'll hold on to the coveted yellow ribbon, sign of the leader. He's flagged down as the winner of this race. No sooner is the race over and the competition completed than the racers rush toward their next checking point, Le Mans. It's going to be a long and hard drive through many towns and villages and small country roads until they reach the open highway. Here is Moretz, the winner, coming into the finish and the checkered flag. The third circuit race at Le Mans will take competitors on another 200-mile trip through the open countryside and the villages and the towns of central France. Note the constantly changing road conditions. During this difficult circuit race, many accidents and other incidents take place. Here, Gerard Senaby, a Swiss entry, is having difficulties with his privately entered Ferrari. The front wheels appear to be locked. Repairs begin as quickly as possible. They can't waste any time, because if they don't arrive at their next checkpoint at the precisely prescribed time, they'll be heavily penalized. Everyone takes a keen interest. Fans following the tour have stopped to offer help. Senaby tries everything he knows while his wife watches anxiously until finally his car is in working order. Now they're up to the checkpoint, and they will make it just in time. Here's the road to Le Mans, where the tourism category races are headed. Their race precedes the Grand Tourism heat, which takes place later at night. Here the Jaguars take the lead, which they retain until the end. Rounding one of the turns. Very closely bunched. A burst of speed, passing 2 or 3. The Le Mans sign proclaims the winner. The night race starts in the well-known Le Mans formula of the racers running to their cars. Here, Trintignant, Moretz, and Lucien Bianchi prepare for the start. Last-minute instructions. It's now 9 o'clock, and they're off. In the announcer's booth, the difficult job of recognizing and identifying the speeding cars at night is doubly difficult. No bright lights are allowed on the track to protect the vision of the racers. Le Mans, scene of a tragic accident a few years ago, takes every possible safety precaution. Even the timekeeper works in the dark. As the cars race through the night, there is another Ferrari victory as Willie Moretz wins his 3rd race in as many days. The grueling pace of the competition is beginning to tell on cars and drivers alike. Here are the signs proclaiming Moretz's victory. And now they're off again. Nights, like days, are for driving. and on they speed through the night. Early morning finds the competitors going through another checkpoint at the guarded car park as they get a few minutes rest prior to the usual signing of papers. Next, another hill climbing race. Here the Jaguars, 30 seconds apart from each other, are competing in the 7-mile race against the clock. They're in the same heat with Ferraris and other big cylinder cars. Our helicopter follows some of the drivers on their relentless journey. Upon reaching the bottom, the speeds increase and the competition stiffens. These mountain roads are treacherous, demanding great driving skill under constant pressure of the clock. Average speeds must be kept according to prescribed regulations. Under these conditions, powerful cars like Ferraris are more handicapped than her smaller cylinder models. Constant gear shifting heats the engine, and Ferraris, though fast on the track, have to slow down on winding mountain roads. And those who can do a quick repair job carry on now and hope that they'll make up for lost time. The next destination is Po. Through mountains and valleys, they reach this well-known Grand Prix track, which is different from most of the others since the track is actually set in the town. Some of the corners on the Po circuit are sharp and treacherous. And as you can see, it's easy to lose your way. or even easier to hit the hay barriers. This could have been a very bad accident, but for the Belgian driver's quick reflexes, avoiding the damaged BMW. The track covers 2 miles around the railway station, past the old capital of Po, and through the main streets, which, fortunately, are closed for the occasion. Now the crowds in the grandstand are anxiously awaiting the start of the Grand Tourist category race. After a classic racing start, Moretz and his Ferrari are soon in the lead. The French champion, Trintignant, is on his home ground at Po, for this is where he won most of his honors. Question now is whether he'll be able to stop Moretz's winning streak. The Ferraris, and 4 of them are left in the Tour de France, have all achieved excellent results. The score shows 3 of them in the lead, following each other closely in points. Moretz has a comfortable lead, followed by Jean Devienne, then Trintignant. Then come the Porsches, but behind by a considerable margin. And here you can see how the less colorful cars, like the Fiat, the Arbit 101, give the big Ferraris a run for their money on a circuit like Po. A Facelia driven by 2 women competitors is in the 5th position in the general classification. Well, a run for their money as long as they can move in the right direction. While her co-driver is racing with the men at Po, Madame Nadège Janviers keeps an accurate record of her partner's track time.
Madame Janviers, it's most unusual to find women drivers in this kind of a race. How many times have you made the Tour de France?
4th time this year.
The 4th time?
Yes.
Don't you find it a little difficult to keep up with the men?
No, I think it's very amusing.
Which one of the races in the Tour de France do you find the most difficult?
Probably the course in Corsica, if I arrive there. I hope.
And the one here at Po, how do you find this one?
It's very difficult, but I know it.
You know it. And what is your formula for keeping in the competition?
Oh, rather slowly, I think it will be all right.
Drive slowly.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Trintignant is making a valiant effort to win this race and recapture points that would put him into 2nd position in the general classification in the Tour. He has a hard time catching Moretz, but he was finally able to get past Jean Devienne. This unique racing circuit through the magnificent town of Po is equaled by only one other, the circuit at Monte Carlo, also located in the middle of the town. The drivers say that Po is a more difficult track and that the curves are faster and the corners sharper. Upon completion of their specified number of laps, the drivers must once again take to the road for their next appointment in Brussels. The itinerary from Pau takes them through the picturesque villages and towns of central France. Trintignant managed to come in second here at Pau, as Moretz again took first place, increasing his lead in the general classification. And here are some of the drivers, tired but still in good humor, checking through the control point. This is Willie Moretz, leader of the Tour de France so far. All the drivers check through their papers, sign the register, and have a brief moment for some refreshments. And then they're off again. And at this particular control point, the competitors have their times rechecked, and one by one, and only 30 seconds apart, they leave for their next destination, Brussels, Belgium. The trip to Belgium, like everything else in the Tour de France, is a speed run. Within 12 hours, the contestants have to drive to Brussels, compete in 2 major races, and then return to France before nightfall. The border with very perfunctory customs inspections will have to be crossed twice. Here Moretz, a Belgian himself, is passed through by the border officials. Soon the entire caravan will have gone through. Early on Sunday morning, villagers and townspeople will appear to greet the speeding visitors from France. At the track in Brussels, the excitement is growing. Here the public will have an opportunity to see many of their own compatriots competing with the best drivers in all of Europe. Here is Maurice Trintignant changing his trademark, the Sherlock Holmes cap, for the prescribed crash helmet. The princess is one of the large crowd, which includes many leading Belgian dignitaries. Now the time for the next race is drawing near. The start is in the Le Mans style. This circuit, built near the exhibition stands of the famous Brussels World's Fair, covers 4 miles. It's a fast track with 2 long straightaways on either side. this is the last of the circuit races in the Tour de France. Olivier Gendevien, many times Belgian champion, will not compete in this race. Instead, he wanted his co-driver, up-and-coming Lucien Bianchi, to have an opportunity to prove his driving ability here on their home ground. There are now only 18 entries left in the Grand Tourism category. The Ferraris, of course, once again have the advantage, and in a very short time they resume leadership, lapping the slower and smaller cars. Before long, the race develops into a contest between Moretz and Bianchi. Much to everyone's surprise, the younger, more inexperienced Bianchi takes the lead. He's obviously determined to push his Ferrari to the limit in order to achieve the victory he and his teammate so badly need. The Brussels race turns into a two-way duel. Other cars in the race don't count as Bianchi goes all out for victory. Moretz desperately tries to catch up. Time after time, they've lapped the other competitors. Here's Gendevien trying to caution his teammate, and there he goes. Again and again, they lap the other competitors who, realizing what's happening, are determined not to make the two main contestants' passage any easier. Here again, Moretz tries to pass Bianchi, who's driving in top form. According to the experts, Bianchi should develop into one of the great racing champions. He's obviously fearless and has the mechanical abilities and instinctive timing that are essential to a racing champion. Moretz is making one final effort to catch up with Bianchi, but the end is near, and this time victory will not be within his grasp. Bianchi, whose victory has once again put the general classification into contention, is congratulated by local officials. And here he collects a token trophy offered by the Belgian Automobile Club. It's a moment's relaxation before the last race. And now the Tour de France is drawing to a close. One more effort remains, the narrow, treacherous road to Corsica. Cars are racing toward Marseille through the busy traffic of populated French highways. At the port, the cars are loaded onto a boat, and the drivers will have an opportunity to rest during the 7-hour crossing to Corsica. The city of Oggesia, capital of the island of Corsica, awaits the visiting drivers from the mainland. And soon the final contest, a race against the clock, is on. The fast cars start first and are pursued by the slower ones. As you can see, Corsican roads don't make allowances for passing. This contest covers 170 miles. The traffic on the entire island has been stopped for the duration of the test. Temperature today is in the high 90s, and it makes the performance more difficult. There are now only 40 cars left in the competition, among them 2 women teams who have managed to retain their places. One of these teams includes Nadel Javiers, whom we interviewed earlier in the tour. Here, knowledge of the terrain is of great help to the competitors. Once again, the foreign entries are somewhat handicapped. And Moretz, determined to retain the slim margin he needs for victory, makes one major final effort. And Moretz wins the Corsican race, clinching his victory in the 10th Tour de France. That night on the boat, carrying the contestants back to Nice, we had time to ask Willie Moretz one quick question. When did you consider that the victory was yours? His answer, the answer of all wise racing men, I never considered that I was the winner, for until you cross the finish line, you are not. In the exhausted group, we find the marshal of the Tour de France tired, but satisfied it's finally over. Jean de Vienne took second in the general classification. In the lounge, general pandemonium. After 9 days of concentrated effort, rivalries are forgotten as the celebration continues. And so ends the Tour de France with one last sleepless night for those who managed to finish the exhausting but exciting Grand Prix of Europe. Perhaps one of the most impressive facts pertaining to this Grand Prix of Europe is that as the race finishes, the drivers, manufacturers, and mechanics have one primary thought in mind: to prepare for the next race. And so, as one Grand Prix of Europe concludes, the work begins for the next year. Another exciting event in your sports cavalcade.